Donald Trump is having a psychotic meltdown on Easter Sunday. He's ranting and raving like a lunatic over his catastrophic and unlawful war. He's posting these curses on social media. Here was his Sunday Easter message. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch, exclamation point. Praised be to Allah, Donald Trump writes. President Donald J. Trump. That is a real message. That's not AI. That's not some fake message. The President of the United States, though it pains me to say that, really posted that message. And again, this follows the message he posted the day before where he said, remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out. 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. Glory be to God, President Donald J. Trump. So yesterday, the day before Easter Sunday, praise be to God, as he says, I will rain down hell on them. And then Donald Trump today saying, praise be to Allah. And then, I don't like cursing on this network, but Donald Trump says, open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards. And then Iran's leadership responded on their state media, and Iranian officials are saying Trump is in, quote, despair and anger. He is repeating, quote, delusional claims. And they added that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until war damages are compensated under a new transit fee framework. So then Donald Trump went to his golf course in Virginia, and he started basically calling up every reporter. He called into Fox, he called into Axios, he called into Rachel Scott over at ABC. Let me show you what he's been doing. So he calls Axios, and here's what he tells them. Trump said the U.S. and Iran were close to talks, but pulled back over delays. But then they said they will meet us in 5 days. So I said, why 5 days? I felt they were not being serious. So I attacked the bridge. He goes, the negotiations are going very well now, but you never get to the finish line with the Iranians. Then he also said, people of Iran are afraid we are going to leave in the middle of the war, but we are not going to leave. And then Trump also told Axios that the U.S. is in deep negotiations with Iran and a deal could happen before Tuesday, but warned of major escalation if it fails. There is a good chance, but if they don't make a deal, I'm going to blow up everything over there. Just to remind you, Donald Trump is lying. He's made up multiple fake deadlines, 48 hours, 10 days. And the Iranians have always been saying, we're not negotiating him. We're not talking with him. He's making this all up. He's a delusional lunatic. We're not talking to him. Let's be very clear. Iran has always put forward its non-negotiables. It's not going to give up its ballistic missiles. It's not going to give up its control over the Strait of Hormuz. It's not going to give up its drones. It wants security guarantees, permanent security guarantees for Iran, for the Houthis, for its Shiite militias in Iraq, for Hezbollah in Lebanon. And in addition to full reparations for the war, it also wants America out of military bases in the Middle East. And it says, if you agree to those, we'll start negotiations. And Iran's always continued to say that. Donald Trump's fake 48-hour deadline after his 10-hour deadline, it all is actually... The latest fake deadline is 10:05 a.m. Eastern time on Monday, April 6th, right before the markets opened after the markets were not open on Friday. And so this is Donald Trump trying to manipulate the markets. He then called state regime media, which calls itself Fox, and he reaches out to a reporter there. Here's what the reporter said. Let's play it.
And the president tells me he thinks he'll be able to get a deal by tomorrow. He says, I think there's a good chance tomorrow. They're negotiating now. All of this following the president's post on Truth Social, where he talked about these negotiations with the Iranians. We'll pull this up. He says,
more from that reporter. Let's play this clip right here.
Faith deal. The president tells me if they don't make a deal and fast, I'm considering blowing everything up and taking over the oil. The president went on to say you're going to see bridges and power plants dropping all over their country.
And all the while you have Iranian leadership, like the head of their parliament, MB Ghalibaf, just mocking Donald Trump in the United States. As I reported late last night, it was a good thing that the United States apparently was able to rescue that other crew member of the F-15E that was shot down over Iran. But of course, whenever the Trump regime tells you about the military plan and they act like it was a smashing success, you always find out more details after the fact that it was a complete lie, and you can never believe what the Trump regime says. Now, we do believe that the F-15E pilot is alive. I think the injuries may be very, very grave and very, very serious, although we don't really know what actually happened. So we're focusing there because the Trump regime lies about everything. What we do know is that two MC-130J aircraft, according to the Trump regime, they intentionally destroyed it. According to the Iranians, these two MC-130J jets, these C-130s, those like big kind of transport jets that kind of go in there with the special forces and drop the special forces up. The Iranians said that they destroyed these two MC-130J aircrafts. Anyway, they have been destroyed. In addition, we know that an MH-6 Little Bird helicopter was destroyed as well. We know that two of the Reaper drones that were used in this rescue mission were destroyed. Then the F-15 and A-10, and then two other helicopters were destroyed a few days back. So you add it all up, anywhere on the low end between 6 to 7 major aircraft, maybe as high as 9 to 10 aircrafts for this mission have all been destroyed, rescuing this one individual. And there's also other just question marks that I have, and I think military analysts have. So you set up a forward base deep within Iran just for this mission with those types of massive airplanes, and then you're saying that you rescued a colonel who was on the rank was a colonel who was on the F-15E, and you set up a whole base in Iran, and it was close enough to Isfahan. Was this an operation involving the Isfahan nuclear facility? And are we just not getting the accurate information at all about what the heck is happening here? So there's just a lot of questions. Apparently there were hundreds of special forces that were used in this one operation with all of those military aircraft being destroyed. And this is at the same time that the Trump regime has ordered all of these commercial satellite firms like Planet Labs not to publish any of their kind of proprietary data that they would sell to media companies in the Middle East and in Iran. So I just raise those questions here. And we'll continue to dig on the MeidasTouch network. But Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, posts a photo of some of those MC-130J aircrafts. These are $100 million aircrafts that were destroyed. And he writes, if the United States gets 3 more victories like this, it will be utterly ruined, with a hand clap emoji, and it's saying this is what the U.S. is viewing a victory, having like 8 more planes and aircraft destroyed, and that's what it was all about. Regime change, we're taking you down. Now it's like, can you open the Strait of Hormuz, you effing bastards? Or now it's about, we rescued someone who was shot down when the United States claimed it had air superiority, and that there was all Iran has is BB guns and they're not able to get us. So then Donald Trump calls up Rachel Scott, reporter Rachel Scott. Here's what he says to her. She goes, spoke with President Trump. He told me the conflict should be over in days, not weeks. But if no deal is made, he's blowing up the whole country with very little off the table. If happens, it happens, he says. And if it doesn't, we're blowing up the whole country, he said. I asked if there's anything off limits. Donald Trump goes, very little is off limits. In other words, Donald Trump just bragging about war crimes to reporters. Rachel Scott goes, I asked the president if his 2 to 3 weeks timeline still holds. And then he goes, it should be days, not weeks. It should be wrapped up in days because no sane group of people could stand the punishment that's going to rain down on them if it's not, he said. Trump also told her that he doesn't think American troops on the ground will be necessary. I don't think it's necessary, but I don't rule anything out. When I asked the president about his comments to Fox that there could be a deal tomorrow, he said he didn't know if there would be, saying, I have no idea with these people. There could be a deal and there could also not be a deal. I don't know. I have no idea with these people. They're getting the shit beat out of them, and that's That's all I can tell you. There's been no country that's ever taken a pounding like that. Then regarding NATO, Donald Trump said, this was a test for NATO. I didn't need them, but I wanted to test them. I said, I'd love to have you guys get involved. And they said, well, we can't do it. I said, oh, that's okay. I didn't even give him a hard sell. They probably said, oh, he's a terrible salesman, because all I did say, love to have you be involved. I was doing that as a test. I didn't need that, right? They're paper tiger. They have no ships. They have no nothing. And Putin has zero fear of them, he said. But I did it as a test. It was my test. A test, I say. Then Rachel Scott goes, I asked Donald Trump if he would move back his deadline for Iran. By the way, the deadline, his latest fake deadline is Monday at 10:15 a.m. So let's just be clear. Now he's saying Tuesday. So there's already, he's already doing that. And then he goes, I don't want to talk about it. They have plenty of time to make a deal. If they don't want to make a deal, their whole country is gone, he said. And again, Donald Trump not saying Islamic Republic. He's talking about war crimes on the entire country of Iran, and that's how it's being perceived there as well. Moreover, in other news in the war, reports of major damage of at least one residential building in northern Israeli city of Haifa. You can see it right here, following an apparent direct impact of a medium-range ballistic missile launched by Iran. In addition, you had Iran hit the Babco, the Bahrain facility right there, the Babco oil storage facility in Bahrain. And then you'll see one of the Patriot missiles provided to Bahrain of the United States, missing the target that was hitting the Babco oil storage, and then the U.S. Patriot missile itself hits the storage facility. This has been confirmed by numerous outlets. And then you can see it right here on the video. And then the Iranian media is bragging about it, how must have gotten some bad American equipment hitting your own facilities right here. Show you this as well. Clear footage showing the moment a recent Iranian strike hit the Neot Hovav industrial zone in southern Israel. The site near the Beersheba in the Negev desert is one of Israel's main chemical and hazardous material hubs. And remember, Israel hit the petrochemical facilities in Iran. Iran then hits the petrochemical facilities in Israel as well as in Kuwait. And remember, yesterday I was showing you some of the Kuwait oil building on fire. We showed you as well the Kuwaiti petrochemical facilities on fire as well. Israel hitting the area in the southern suburbs of Beirut. The fifth Israeli strike in recent time over there, and it's right by the Rafik al-Hariri hospital. Lots of civilians injured over there. You could see what's going on there. It's just been interesting for me also to watch how corporate news has tried to sane wash this all. You have, Sungmin Kim for the Associated Press, also on CNN. Here's how she described Donald Trump's psychotic Easter Sunday post. Trump promises strikes on Iran's power plants and bridges on Tuesday if the Strait of Hormuz isn't reopened. As Ron Filipkowski goes, our editor-in-chief, you left out a few things in that post, don't you think? So that's kind of the sane washing we see. You have New York Times, David Sanger, sane washing Donald Trump's impeachable, insane Easter threat, as Aaron Rupert puts it, and saying, yeah, it was unusually vivid. No, it was psychotic. He's a lunatic. He's a madman. He's a war criminal. He's a predator. He's a sicko. He's a vile piece of trash. Just go and say the person in the Oval Office is a piece of trash. That's who he is. He's a criminal. He's a felon. Stop sane washing this guy. Here, play this clip.
To the church, this was sort of an unusual way, I think, to start off the morning, and unusually vivid even for the president's Truth Social posts. Here's the issue.
And on CNN, former Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien was a guest, and he just says everyone has their own styles. Obama had his style, Biden has his, George W. Bush had. This is just Trump's stylistic. Play this clip.
Escalate.
Bill, you've always been someone who speaks softly and carries a big stick. This is not how you negotiate things, in my experience covering you.
Yeah, and that's my personal. But this is also the first, I call it war,
fought in this age of social media with this president. I think he does things very differently. I think he does things in his own way, different than Biden, different than Obama. And I think we're seeing this playing out this morning.
And then just look at the propaganda from state regime media over here. Fox, just so silly. Here, play this clip.
The president telling Trey that there is the potential for a deal. It could come as soon as tomorrow. But if not, red lines have been drawn. In the past, he said, open it or face hell. He said that he will bomb the Iranians back to the Stone Ages. It certainly sounds like he is prepared to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't toy with him if I were the Iranians. You saw what he did in Venezuela. He has a lot of backbone, and he's not going to be dissuaded. So I think it would be in the interests of the Iranians to go ahead and make this deal. And by the way,
and I'll just leave you with this. This is Senator Kaine, Democratic senator, and he's asked on Meet the Press, do you think that these are good negotiating tactics by Donald? Do you think this is the right kind of negotiating tactics? You know, when you start cursing, and Senator Kaine's like, no, it's juvenile. It makes us look weak and stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Play this clip.
Folks. And so I hope the White House, I doubt the president will, but please dial back the rhetoric, because you don't need to put people like these pilots more at risk by the rhetoric that you use.
Well, you raised the rhetoric. Let me ask you about some of the president's rhetoric this morning, posting on Truth Social, quote, open the strait, you blank bastards. Do you think that is an effective negotiation tactic?
No, the bombing them back to the Stone Age, cursing them, Secretary Hegseth saying, you know, it's death from above, no mercy, no quarter. We will ignore stupid rules of engagement. This is all embarrassing and juvenile. And it's people trying to act like they're puffed up and tough when what we really see from the administration in this war is the absence of a plan, the absence of a clear rationale, no effort to get allies on board, and thus deep unpopularity of this war with the American public. I know.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you all think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Happy Easter on behalf of the MeidasTouch Network. Have a happy Easter Sunday. We're thinking about you. We're thinking about your families. We're thinking about fighting for you. We're thinking about growing together. So if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. And if you have family over, tell them about the MeidasTouch Network. Show them this video. How about you do that? Make me this. Tell me if you do this in the comments, okay? If you have family over right now, show them this video and tell them, hey, have you seen MeidasTouch? Watch this video. This shows how they just go fact, receipt, video. And that's what news should be. And maybe make them MeidasTouch subscribers. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.meidastouch.com.